welcome back to another episode of Horror Huddle. I am Stacey-Beth, and we have Ash here as always.
Howdy.
We're back. It's been a hot goddamn minute, since we've recorded anything. I mean, I know we just put up a new episode, but that was old, obviously, and that was such a bad episode just because I fucked up the settings, the sound.
Oh, you were trapped in the box.
Yeah, I was trapped in a box, and the sound was garbage, and the picture quality was potato. Like, it was just so bad.
The worst part was this ugly mug taking the full fucking screen. Ugh.
And I was like, help, in the corner. Okay, so yeah, I'm really excited about this one that we're going to be talking about tonight. We're going to be talking about my favorite Guillermo del Toro movie. It is 2001, The Devil's Backbone. Super stoked about it. Yeah, I first watched this movie, I think I want to say maybe in 2002. It was released in April of 2001 in Spain.
I can't remember. I know I've seen it one other time before this last time, but it's been a while.
Yeah. Well, and so me and Adam got tickets to a screening of it at the Draft House on Monday. And I mean, of course, thankfully I caught it in time that they were going to be showing it there because apparently this whole month, every Monday was a Guillermo del Toro movie that they were showing every Monday. So I didn't even realize it until I saw that they were showing Devil's Backbone. I was like, yeah, have to go see this. I think next week they're ending it off with Chronos. So yeah, I'm like, that would be cool, but I'm fine with seeing this one. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, it's not a fairly long, okay, it's about an hour 45, hour 46 or something. So, yeah. I mean, I think it's just perfect amount of time to tell that story. Budget of about 4.5 million. I think it made somewhere around 6.5 million, which, wasn't a lot, I guess. But
well, I don't know. It would not be considered even a hit because probably it didn't even break even, depending on the marketing and everything.
Yeah. So
Shame. It's a really good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, this one actually didn't get as much notoriety as Pan's Labyrinth did, because Pan's Labyrinth came out in 2006. So Del Toro, before we go into the plot and stuff, Del Toro actually calls The Devil's Backbone the brother to the sister Pan's Labyrinth. That's what he considers it, and you can kind of definitely see some similarities in a bit to I guess the style of the movie and stuff like that.
Well, and then it was surprising because when I was looking at the IMDb page when they were talking about the chronology of his film releases, this came out after Mimic.
Yes, so it's Chronos,
which is weird because Mimic. I guess it was because Mimic was a big studio film, and this one, because it's smaller budget, looks a bit dated.
Well, and actually, I read that Del Toro really tried to get his name taken off of Mimic, mostly because of, I guess the Weinsteins or whatever one of them or whatever was coming in during shooting and changing everything around and trying to do stuff that he has not worked with them since, is what they said.
Sense. Because from that production value, because then he also did, when did he do Blade 2?
Oh, I think sometime in the 90s.
Yeah, late 90s. So yeah.
No, not 90s. Sorry. Sometime, it was after, was it before or after Pan's Labyrinth? Pan's Labyrinth was 2006.
No, it was before that.
Okay, so it might have been between.
But it's funny that, we're going off topic, but it's kind of interesting that he did the studio film with Mimic, and he got fucked over so much. He's like, fuck that. I'm going to Spain. I'm going to make my own damn movie, on my budget that I can actually have creative control over. And what turns out was a smaller budgeted movie, but also a better one.
Yeah. Okay, so The Devil's Backbone is basically this kind of gothic horror set in Spain right at the end of, I think the last year of the Spanish Civil War in 1939. So it follows Carlos, who's this 12-year-old boy who gets left at this boys' orphanage. His father had died in the war, so they went and dropped him off. He finds out that the ghost of a former orphan haunts the orphanage. So that's the main plot, but there's several subplots in it that kind of really drive that main plot. You've got there's the two caretakers, which is Dr. Casares and Carmen, and older, they're old. And
those two characters, love them.
Absolutely love them. Yeah, we'll definitely get into the characters in a bit. But so their little subplot is, Dr. Casares is in love with her. And then we have Jacinto, who's the groundskeeper. He's kind of a fucking dick. And he's dating Conchita, who's one of the teachers. And then you have Carlos, of course, and then you have Jaime, who's kind of the bully, seems like the older one of the orphans and stuff, who eventually he ends up befriending Carlos and stuff. And then you have Santi, who is the ghost. And the whole story was that he had one night during a rainstorm, he had gone missing because this defused or whatever bomb had fallen. And I loved that shot that they show of the bomb falling when Jaime is like towards the end when Jaime is telling the story and you see the bomb fall and it's like, oh my God, it almost got him. And it was supposed to explode, but it didn't. And so the whole like legend or like the story was that maybe Santi had just ran off. But of course, okay, guys, spoilers. We're going to spoil this. You find out that Jacinto killed Santi by accident, but he hid the body. He tied him.
But why did he? Because basically he grew up in this orphanage and came back because there is gold on the premises.
Well, there's gold on the premises because the doctor and Carmen are like Republican. They're like the Republican or Republic whatever loyalists or whatever,
and they're funding the rebels.
They were and so they had this cachet or whatever of gold bars to help like the treasury, the finances, whatever. And Jacinto knew this because he was also fucking Carmen on the side, kind of trying to
making love to that stump.
He's trying to get her, and she was having none of it. She did not want him to have this because she always knew he was broken goods, Yeah. So that's kind of the whole thing. But anyways, he killed Santi. It was an accident at first, but he, instead of reporting it, instead of getting somebody to help him, he tied him up, threw him into this like pool or something that they have in the attic or basement, whatever. Yeah. And that's where he's been since, his body and stuff.
A really old looking pool. That was one thing I did notice is like, here's this building and it seems like it felt like it was almost like it was built on top of an older building that had this pool because everything about it seemed like it was much older than the rest of the building.
Yeah.
From the big clay pots to the pool itself, it just seemed much older. And I thought that was a great touch. Again, Guillermo touch.
Yeah. And so what I love about this movie is that like a lot of his movies, there's this kind of like childlike innocence and wonder that's in all of his movies. I mean, even down to the ghost, with the blood like floating in the air and stuff. It's very like, it's all fantasy and it's very like,
it's particles.
It's creepy, but it's still like, you're not scared of it.
And that's the thing, it's not as creepy only because instead of being a horror ghost story, this is a drama with a ghost in it.
Kind of like what he tried to explain with Crimson Peak, was that Crimson Peak was not a horror movie, but it was a gothic romance with horror elements. This was more drama and it was real about the kids and the backstories with everything. But what I also like is that he's not afraid to show like the brutality with, the explosion and you see all those kids' bodies and I mean, God, and that made me cry. And it was always really awful because you kind of, even though you don't get to know a lot of those kids, they're all in it together, trying to escape and trying to get out of there and kind of helping each other. And they're just all kids who are a product of this war,
And probably what helps you get that connection to those kids is the dialogue. Mm-hmm. When I see a lot of movies that have kids, you can kind of tell that it's like a grown-up trying to give dialogue to children that doesn't quite.
Where like the children are very smart and don't talk alike.
This one though, it does kind of fit with kind of the way children think. It's like, hey, look, I drew a picture of a naked woman.
Yeah, and he goes, "Why is her pussy sideways?" Like,
why is that sideways? It doesn't go like this. It goes like this. And I was like,
and then you have the bully Jaime, who's still, even though he's kind of an asshole in the beginning, you still get those bits of him where he still wants, he wants to grow up and get out of the orphanage and draw comics and write comics and stuff. Like he still has this sense of like childlike innocence to him, but that he still has things he wants to do. He's not just an asshole. He doesn't want to grow up and be like Jacinto. He wants to actually do stuff that he wants to do. You know what I mean? But yeah, so like we said, it was a ghost story first and foremost, but you kind of realize that it's also this like tragic, like human story that like it broke my heart more than once. Like I think that, I mean, as many times as I've seen it, even in the first scene when they're asking Carlos why he's there, he's like, oh, because my mentor is just here talking about something. And then like when he sees him like leaving and he's running after him with his luggage, I mean, I start crying every time because it's so sad. And you're like, and then that's when you really get Dr. Casares' like and you really realize that this is not a bad guy. These people aren't bad people. When he goes and he starts, bonding with him immediately, asking him about, the Count of Monte Cristo story and stuff,
Well, he's not a bad guy, but he's definitely a different guy. I mean, how many people drink weird dead fetus fluid?
Yeah. But he's
to get a boner, no less.
Yeah. Well, because he loved Carmen, that he wanted, to be able to do, even he's listening to her getting fucked by Jacinto, and he's like, just, oh man, but it's so funny because
and not only like, you kind of almost, like a romantic, he tells her poetry.
Yeah.
Makes up poetry for her. I was like, aw.
He kind of like, and it's so funny, in most movies, you kind of, when you see movies like that, or like where there's an orphanage or something, you expect the caretaker to be the asshole. Like, God, man, you expected her to be a hard as nailed bitch. She was so sweet. She cared for these kids. She's like, I need to stay with them. I can't leave them. And same with the doctor. Like, he's like, I'm only staying. Well, of course he was staying because of her, but he still wasn't saying, oh, fuck these kids. He still cared. I mean, he stayed with them till the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's where the movie really like succeeds. Because, I said that it's a drama that has a ghost in it. It's actually more than that, because it's like juggling all these, themes in it. It's like, you have the story of the boy who's now without a father. He is alone, trying to make his way in this place. You have the, story of Carmen, and the professor or doctor, dealing with this orphanage while there's a war getting closer and closer to them.
And it's funny because actually Carlos,
trying to steal all the gold from them.
I don't think Carlos ever even found out that his dad was dead, right? They never told him his father died. Yeah, so he never, because even towards, the middle or the, whatever, like he was still saying, oh, when my dad comes and gets me and stuff, like nobody, that was just an after, like that did not mean anything. You know what I mean? Like I don't think he ever got told that his father died. And it's cool because, again, with the characters and stuff and even the story itself, you can see, like, the effects that the war had on everybody. You know what I mean? Like, just, I don't know how else to go too much into it, but I mean, that's pretty much all I'm trying to say. It's like you get to, he spends a lot of time really making you feel for these people. At the same time, still also making you go, okay, we're going to find out what happened to this, why this ghost is serving a purpose. It's not there to be creepy and scary. He wanted to get help, or he wanted to get revenge, basically, for this asshole that killed him, And I think, to me, if anything, that was the most heartbreaking part of the story, is that this kid had this bad ending, and still, like, when they show at the end him floating above the water, and you're like, he's still by himself, like.
But is he?
No, but still, it's like he got it, but then everybody's gone. You know what I mean? And it's like,
no, not everyone is gone.
No. You know what I mean, though.
Not
like
gonna spoil that ending.
The kids and stuff. Like you're like, aw. So apparently, I think I read it in like one of the trivia or whatever that like they gave when. The guy who played Jacinto, that Guillermo del Toro actually wrote a whole backstory for him and gave him like the thing and said, this is to help his acting as the character. It's this whole, like, he gave him a whole backstory, which we don't hear really, but we just, it was to help him.
You don't hear it. You do see a little bit in the pictures that he looks at it towards the end of the movie. But other than that, nothing really.
Yeah.
But that was good to give him, at least
it wasn't
a handle on his character.
Yeah, it wasn't to be put in the movie. It was more for him as an actor to get into the role. Yeah, so I thought that was pretty neat. I like that it's a slow paced movie for sure. I won't say it's a slow burn, but it's a slow paced movie for sure. But it's a perfect example how to make something like that work. Like.
Goes down to the fact that it's juggling so many ideas. It needs to be fairly slow to give each enough attention that towards the end, when they do all come together, you kind of give it to them.
But it was never slow enough that you got bored. You were very engaged throughout, and it wasn't even too slow that, like I said, it only had a runtime of an hour 46. I mean, for being as slow as it is, it should have been like 2 hours and 20 minutes or something. You know what I mean? But you still,
I wouldn't have minded that, honestly.
I wouldn't have either. Like, I'm always when it's over. But yeah, and that slow paced aspect of it is what makes you care for these characters, though. It's what really makes you bond with them, and you kind of bonded with everybody except for the villain, of course. But you did get to know him. You never really understood why he did it. It's just the fact that he's an asshole. He grew up in the orphanage and had this bad life. And it kind of almost makes you think like maybe something happened to him.
Yeah.
There.
Well, you know what? Who they should have given more attention to? I wanted to know more about the fat henchman. It's like, I'm a fat guy. That's a guy I can relate to.
Shut up. In case you ever become a fat henchman.
Yeah.
I'm fine without him. But I did like that they left his ass there. Like right when he found the shit too. He was like, bye, sucker. Yeah, I mean, we kind of already covered that. I'd put like, the movie offered so much more than a ghost story. Duh.
Okay, I think it was a callback. Remember that little mechanical frog he gave that other kid? The clicking of its legs. Did that or did that not sound like the clicking of the spoons of the kid from Mimic?
I have never seen Mimic.
You never seen Mimic?
No.
Now, you're not missing too much.
Yeah, I've never seen Mimic.
Like, click, 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 click. And I was like, Mr. Funny Shoes, because that's what the kid from that movie says all the time. It was like,
maybe it was. I don't know. Yeah, I've never seen it. I mean, I've heard of it.
Auditory callback.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. Again, we already talked about the effects and stuff of the ghost and everything, but other than that, I mean, it was shot really well. Like, it was shot really good. You really did get that sense of, like, of course, the isolation, how far away it was. It was just kind of this really I mean, it was when they showed the outside shots of the building, it was huge, but when you were inside, it still all felt very
small.
You didn't get a lot of interior shots other than certain places, but even then they were all very, very small places. The kitchen, their sleeping quarters were kind of big, but you didn't really get too much of it.
Well, it was one big hall with all of them in it.
Yeah, exactly. And then you had the rooms and kind of, man, I wish I should have written it down. The quote that Casares, however you say it, said in the beginning and the end when he's talking about what is a ghost.
Like a bug trapped in amber.
It's like an insect trapped in amber. I love that. And he's like, what is a ghost? I'm a ghost. Stuff like that. Like, I absolutely love that still. And
I do love that they use that same quote at the end to bookend it.
But they added that one last line, I love that. I thought it was a fantastic, perfect ending to that, and just was. Like, I'm still here, I did find out though that they, of course he referenced it in the movie that when he's talking about what Devil's Backbone is, it's actually with spina bifida is what that ailment was. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, I saw that, but I didn't.
Until he took the little ladle and started.
Yeah, like, it was like these dead babies, and like, it, could have been formaldehyde, but he was explaining what it was in that.
Well, it was like
rum,
alcohol, basically.
It was like, rum and, spices and stuff. And he's like, a lot of people use this when they're sick, to help them and for impotence, ha ha ha. Like, kind of, but he wasn't even being creepy about it. He was just kind of trying to make jokes with the kid, and the kid got it. Like, he knew what he was saying. He was like, oh man, like, that's weird, and he had a little shot glass of it, and then he's like, and then that's been a baby. Oh yeah, it's like there's been a baby marinating in that. Like, and you just drink it. Oh god. Interesting tidbit though. Before we kind of end this all, I did see that this story was actually 16 years in development before he finally made it out. He wrote the first draft before Chronos. Which was made in 93. But he wrote the first draft for it. So this movie apparently had been in development for 16 years before he finally, got the balls to do it, I guess. Apparently the original draft, the first draft was super duper different. Like, it was supposed to take place during the Mexican Revolution, and it actually seemed a lot more creepy. Like, if you go to Wikipedia, it actually says this. There was a lot of, they talked about several different characters he had ideas for, and it all seemed like creepy, like, oh, an old man with a needle and this Christ with 3 arms and weird, that I'm like, okay, maybe that's a little Pan's Labyrinth-y, with all the crazy stuff. So I'm really glad that it took him that long, because I feel like it took him that long and he made just one of his best movies he's ever. And that's actually, he says himself that it is his favorite movie that he's done. And
I would say that's because it was a product of passion. I mean, you don't stick with a movie script that long refining it if it's not something that's just born out of passion.
Exactly. And I think this was, I think that was the best he could have done with that. Like I said, that is my absolute hands down favorite movie of his. I just absolutely adore that movie.
Yeah, I can't agree, only because I like his action films. Hellboy is great. I love Hellboy 2, and
but when we talk
Pacific
like those
Rim,
are obviously
for what
very,
it is a great movie. So
yeah.
I'm
But
more
I
along
think-
the lines of his like
I
action
think,
movies.
yeah, you like his action, of course. I like more of, I like the heartfelt, the spooky, but and it's so funny that like he can make two totally different an action movie
very diverse
and
because
still be like very, very good at it.
Because you have his kind of like Pan's Labyrinth, really fantastical stuff. You got Hellboy, which is action, but it also has a lot of that fantastical stuff when it comes to the monsters designs. Like you've seen Hellboy 2, right?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Of Death, which is like literally has like no eyes.
Yeah.
Eyes in his hands. Like, dude, that could have came right out of Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And then they have a fucking robot movie, which for me was out of nowhere. It's like, yes, giant robots versus giant monster movie.
Why not, right?
And he knocked it out of the park, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the guy can do pretty diverse stuff. And from what I heard, Peter Jackson originally went to him to do the Hobbit movies.
Oh, really?
Oh, that would have been amazing.
That would have been interesting to see. That would have been really cool.
Of course, the saddest video game tragedy of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Silent Hills.
Yeah.
Oh, Silent Hill game with him directing it?
Yeah. We'll pour one out after this for Silent Hills.
Fuck you, Konami. Fuck you in the ass for
Okay, let's not end this on a negative note.
No, I'm only saying it because Guillermo del Toro, just amazing artist. I mean,
yeah.
Vision.
And before we end this, I do want to tell you guys watching, if you haven't yet, go watch the trailer for his movie that's coming out in October called The Shape of Water.
I still need to do that.
It looks, we'll watch it afterwards. It looks, I'm so excited for it. It's got Michael Shannon in it too. So I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, I'm so down for this movie. Yeah, we'll watch it whenever we finish this. But all right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Talk to y'all next time.
Take care.
Bye.